WATD presents John Paul, the Car Doctor. All things automotive. Have questions? Call 781-837-4900. Now, here's John Paul, the Car Doctor.
And good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. My name's John Paul, the Car Doctor, here to help you with your car problems, maybe making some decisions about cars. Maybe you have a broken car, you're trying to figure out what to do with it, how to fix it, all those kind of things. We can try to help you with all of them. You can't help but notice sometimes some of the ads for leasing a car. There's been some what looks like really good lease payments out there right now. I saw something the other day that sounded like they were giving the car away. I think it was, I think it was a Nissan Leaf, and it was $5,000 down and lease it for $20 a month or some crazy thing out of Colorado somewhere. But you really need to look at leasing versus buying and decide what's going to work right for you. And Consumer Reports did an article about this. And with us on the phone is the Deputy Auto Editor for Consumer Reports, Jon Linkov. John, good morning and welcome to the Car Doctor program.
Well, thank you, John. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Usually when I have Mike Quincy on from Consumer Reports on, we talk about his latest either bread baking or alcohol creation. But we'll leave that to him, and we'll focus on buying versus leasing here. Kind of give us a little bit of the basics behind it. Does leasing make sense for people? And is leasing one of those things that can be the big print giveth and the little print taketh away?
Yeah, so you're right on both counts. The thing with leasing is that if you have a business, first of all, and you can deduct the lease cost, then go ahead and lease. You know, that just makes sense because you're always going to spend more on a lease simply because you don't have an asset at the end of the term. You know, you turn it in. Whereas if you buy a car, you have something that you could sell. Even if you have a loan on it, the outstanding balance on a loan, you can still sell that car and pay the loan off at least and even possibly make money. The lease, you run it for 2 or 3 years, you hand it in, you spend all that money, and you have basically just driven a car for 2 or 3 years. So it's a very, very long-term rental. So if you look at it that way. And then the fine print is the kicker where you start thinking, oh, it's a great price, it looks good, and then you realize, well, if I go over the miles, it's a fee. Oh, this lease only had 5,000 or 9,000 miles, and I drive 15,000 miles, that price goes up. Oh, I have to pay to hand it back in. So it's like you said, it's fine print details, and it doesn't always make sense for everybody.
Yeah, somebody wrote to me in one of the columns that I write, and they were shocked that they were leasing a Mercedes, and they had to give it back with 430 seconds of tread on the tires, and they're like, "Oh, I thought I was leasing a car; I wasn't going to have to pay for anything. All of a sudden, now I got to come up with $1,600 for tires."
Yep. Yeah. I mean, tires. You have to maintain the car. You know, I mean, all the stories are out there of cars with sludge engines. You know, and you hear about people who leased a car. You know, and I've leased 5 cars. I've never taken them for an oil change. You know, if you're running at 15,000 miles a year, and you've never done an oil change, you hand back that car, you've destroyed the engine for the next person. It's things like that. That's a different story, buying off lease. But yeah, you do actually have to maintain the car. You can't modify the car. You need to not carry, your chocolate collection and leave it in the sun in the backseat of the car, for example, because the more damage that you do to that vehicle, you're on the hook for it when you hand it back in.
Yeah, and that's something I think some people don't think about. Even things like if they made some sort of modification to the vehicle, maybe they, put some kind of holder in to hold an iPad in place, and they put some holes in the dash. Or even if you're one of those people that seems to get hit by every shopping cart at the local supermarket, to some extent, you're responsible for those dents and dings, right?
There's a wear and tear allowance, quote unquote. It's a mystery, really. I mean, I've leased cars. My ex-wife and I leased a car, 2 cars, and you hand it in, and you're kind of leery in the sense of like, all right, what's going to happen when I drop it off? We obviously I'm a car guy. I'm into it. I'm paying attention. I'm polishing and watching it. But you just wonder the little scratch here. Is this going to be a problem? What if I nick the wheel? Well, if I nick all four wheels, that's kind of a mystery. So then you really have to be very attentive to the vehicle. And then any modification. I mean, it could be something as simple as you want to tint the windows because you're in. You take the car to Florida for half the year, and you want to have tinted windows because the sun down there. You could be, dinged for that cost because they have to strip the tint off because it could be a junky job or it could be something that doesn't fit with the car or they just don't want to deal with it. The auto manufacturer, who owns the car, the captive finance company. So it's a thing. Like if you like doing anything to a car, whether you want to put a wing on it, you want to put bigger wheels on it, you want to pinstripe it, or you just want to put a phone holder in it, you really have to be leery about leasing. Just in the sense that you're going to be responsible for that at the end of the term.
I remember years ago, I thought BMW had a pretty good idea. They gave you something that looked like sort of a credit card, and it was sort of if the ding fit behind the credit card, it was considered normal wear and tear, and if it was bigger than the credit card, you were responsible for it.
Yeah, like little things. I mean, look, a lot of paint, little door dings and stuff, they can be buffed out. They can be taken out, rubbing compound was the use at one point, whatever type of material that it's service that they'll use today. A lot of that stuff can come out. But yeah, if it's a hammer head, hit the door, if there's a crease in the panel, stuff like that, little dings and dents, yeah, it can be popped out with a Dent Pro. The dealerships have the people on a retainer. I mean, we use it at Consumer Reports. We have a dent doctor, the dent wizard, whatever the local term is for the franchise. They'll come out and they'll pop the dents out, and it's no problem. But once the paint is creased, once the clear coat is broken, that's when you start saying, like, all right, now they're going to have to work on the panel. Now it's going to be a cost that's going to come back to you. And it's a bill that you just get. It pops up in the mail one day, or it pops up electronically one day, and you've signed a contract that you've agreed to pay it. It's not something you can, you could dispute it, but I mean, it's the equivalent of fighting with the dealership about something that you modified your own car under warranty, one that you're buying, and they say the modification has caused the problem. It's your word against theirs. You're proving that they're wrong. It's the same type of thing with the lease payment. You're just sent a bill, and you can fight it. It's like fighting City Hall, so to speak.
Well, let's talk about payments and leasing for a bit. A lot of people don't realize leasing is based on the price of the car, and you can negotiate the price of the vehicle, and that can affect the lease price, right?
Yeah, so what you want to think about is that you're basically renting a car for a certain amount of term. And unfortunately, even with, now that we're back to more of a normal depreciation cycle, we're out of the 2020 to 2023 or so, late 2022 inflated prices. We're in a more normal depreciation cycle where a vehicle loses 40% over the first 3 years. So if you have a 3-year lease, you're leasing the period where the vehicle depreciates the greatest. So you're renting that amount of the vehicle's worth. So it behooves you to go in and negotiate just like you're buying a car. You can negotiate. Now, where the dealer will go with that is anyone's guess, depending on how hot the car is, so to speak. But it does you no good not to do it. You should go in and try to get it something off of MSRP because it's just lowering what you're going to be, the amount you're going to be renting.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Somebody wrote to me one day and said, "Why would anybody buy an off-lease car? It doesn't make any sense. The whole idea of leasing is, and as we said, you're not paying for major repairs and things like that. But sometimes buying your own car at the end of the lease, if you've taken care of it, can sometimes be a pretty good deal, right?"
So I'll give you two personal anecdotal experiences. I'm a data point of one, two data points, but one person. So first of all, when we decide to replace my wife's car, which is creeping up on 13 years now, we will probably look for an off-lease car, just because, again, it's at this point when it's 2 or 3 years old, it's depreciated a lot. So the value for us is much better. And if you do buy something you want to get something, obviously, and have it either checked over by a mechanic, or if you trust the dealership or the reseller that you're buying from, that the car's been maintained. You want to look at the records and such.
Right.
But to your other point, my mother-in-law does not drive much. She drives around town. She has a BMW 3 Series. She wanted, all-wheel drive. She wanted the quote-unquote safety. That's what she wanted. So she has a BMW 3 Series. She puts no miles on it whatsoever. It's not necessarily the most financial savvy thing, but this is what works for her. So we're not going to judge. But okay, so the lease just came up. So it was in 2021. She had a decent deal. The dealership wanted that car back because of the 10,000 or whatever miles a year she was allotted. She maybe used 8,000 of them total. So 8,000 out of 30,000 miles that she could have driven. They wanted that car back because they could have sold it for a ton. Her buyout was such a great price. I said, you'd be insane not to buy this car because it's been perfect condition. You've driven it nowhere. Take the buyout because it's just a win. You're not going to be able to lease. I did the math of if you release the same model or the similar model, here's what you're going to pay over the next 3 years. It was almost as much as the buyout. So that's the type of thing. Yeah, sometimes your buyout could be a great price, particularly if you got it at an opportune time. A lot of people had a great price in 2019 and 20 before COVID really hit, and when they bought that car out, it was great for them. A lot of people who leased a car starting in 2021, the price was insane, and their buyout was equally high, so it didn't make as much sense. Yeah, you should definitely look at the buyout. Be very aware of that, and don't just because the dealer or the finance company has a pull ahead. They say, oh, well, we'll get you out of your lease 6 months earlier. You can get into something new. There's a reason they want that car. They're not doing it out of their good graces. Nothing against them. It's a business, but they're trying to get that car back with lower miles and get you into a higher payment because maybe inflation, car prices have gone up. So be very aware of your buyout price.
You brought up a good point, though. Say you leased a car and there was, you were allotted 12,000 miles a year, and you, for one reason or another, either because you were afraid to go over the mileage or you just didn't drive as much as you used to when you only drove, say, 7,000 or 8,000 miles a year, you've sort of paid for mileage you didn't use, right?
Yeah, it's a very excellent point. Very, very good catch there. Yeah, you don't get anything back. You're only penalized. And you're penalized both ways in the sense of you paid for 30,000 miles, say, you've used 25. They don't give you a credit for the 5,000. But if you went over by 5,000, you're paying dearly, sometimes 10 to 50 cents a mile, depending on the contract. So, yes, you in the days when everyone was commuting to work and they just kind of knew what their routine was. You're like, I know I drive 15,000 miles a year. Okay, fine. At least you could kind of bank on the lease. Maybe you took it on vacation and, all of a sudden you're like a little high, you have to park it or, you switch cars with your spouse. Now, leases are much lower. So in many of the leases, the starting mileage is 10,000, not 12, or even 8, depending on if it's a luxury car or something like that. And, you start playing games of like, I can't drive it. We're not going to take that one. We're going to take that car. And all of a sudden you look and you're like, oh, I have 3 months left and I have 4,000 miles remaining. Yeah, you're giving that back to them. You paid for it and you're giving it to them, and it'll be a lower mileage car that they can sell.
So far, leasing looks like it could be good for some people, but not for everyone. Leasing does give you the ability to maybe drive a newer car with lower payments. It gives you the ability to maybe drive a car with more features in it that you would that if you went out to buy it. But people go out and buy cars, and sometimes they'll to try to get all of those features, they'll do something which I think is the dumbest thing in the world. They'll go out and get a 7-year or higher loan. And to me, that sounds crazy.
So let me jump back to your first point. Leasing, for people who have the means, and I know this isn't everyone, it's fewer people, sometimes a lease could be a good idea for a new driver in your household. Now, I know insurance costs are high, so we're gonna keep that and table that issue. But if you have a new driver, not experienced, at least leasing a vehicle can give them all of the safety features, a lot of technology, safety technology, help protect them as they're learning. So it's an option, and also that artificially low mileage limit, works for you in the sense of, okay, you're not driving this, from say Boston to DC for the weekend to hang out with friends because, you're going to use up your miles. So that's a school of thought. But like you had said, in the sense of buying, leasing gives you more car for the same payment that you would have buying. So, for $300 a month, say, you could drive a BMW 3 Series, whereas for $300 a month, you're not buying a BMW 3 Series. You're not getting that loan unless you are doing something crazy like a 7 or an 8-year loan. And at that point, you're paying a ton of money in interest, and you reach a point very quickly where you owe more on the vehicle. It's called upside down. You owe more on the vehicle than what it's worth. So if you have to sell it, for example, let's just say, just whatever situation is, you tire of the vehicle, not even a bad situation personally, you just tire of it, you can't pay off the loan with the money you get from the sale. If you get into an accident, it's totaled, et cetera, then you're in a situation where the insurance company is giving you money for the vehicle, and that's not enough for the loan. So now you have this outstanding loan, and you don't even have a vehicle. So that's a worry as well.
And chances are, at 5 years old, it's going to need brakes and tires and maybe suspension work and some other things that all of a sudden now you have your monthly payment and the repair bill.
100%. You get into that, 15,000 miles a year, you're looking at timing belt, water pump, you like you said, brake job.
Yep.
God forbid it's a problem. It's a car it's a problem car. Something that maybe at Consumer Reports has a low reliability rating, and the air conditioner it goes, or a water pump, like something just fails prematurely. You're really in deep with the cost, and you're still paying $300, $400, $500 a month. That's the problem. And then a lot of people also hire the vehicle, so you have this long loan. You still owe a lot of money on the car. You trade it in, and then you roll that amount that you owe into the next vehicle, which is a really bad cycle because you have that amount that you owe already has interest built into it. So it's a $20,000 loan plus $2,200 of interest. Let's just say whatever. So it's a $22,000 loan. You paid off $11,000 of it. You owe $11,000 still, and then you roll it into another car. You're paying interest on an interest payment. So it's not financially advantageous at all just because you want a new car, or the situation is you own a car that's been unreliable and you want to get rid of it. That's the problem with taking the long loan that lowers the monthly payment.
Right. Before we let you go, let's see if I gave my boss good or bad advice. He decided he wanted to get an electric car. He decided a Tesla Model 3 was what he wanted. And I said to him, I'm not a leasing fan, but I would probably only lease an electric car because the technology is changing so rapidly. Your car at the end of 3 or 4 years, Tesla may come up with one that goes 500 miles for the same price and charges twice as fast or something like that. Does leasing an electric car make sense?
Yeah, so there's two schools of thought on it, both that go towards leasing. First, what you were saying is, you're in a developing technology. I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm going to lease a performance car because it's going to be a higher performance version. Sure. But when you get to something like a Toyota Camry, it's going to incrementally be better the next generation, but it's not going to be earth-shattering. The electric car world, however, yes, you're seeing such advances. You're seeing in range, in comfort, in what they can do as far as packaging. It's every iteration. I mean, it seems like Tesla in particular, they're constantly making updates. Mid-run, mid-model year, all of a sudden it has more range, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing really to keep in mind is that there's federal tax incentives that apply to every electric car if you lease. If you buy it, there's restrictions that they have to have a certain percentage of parts made in the United States, they have to be manufactured in the United States, et cetera. It's part of the IRA, the Act, and it's what happens is that money will end up going to the dealer. They end up claiming that $7,500, or if it's a plug-in hybrid, it's a little less. They claim that money, so you would take that off of the the payment of the vehicle price. So basically, like, negotiate your best price. So, it's a $30,000 vehicle. You negotiate down to $28,000, and the $7,500 would come off that. There's no EV that's priced, but in the sense of you would then take that off the price there, and then you would have a much smaller amount that you would have to pay for it to lease. So that's where it makes sense as well.
You guys bought a Fisker, right?
Yes, we did. we bought two. We bought the Karma years ago, and it was awful. And we have an Ocean, and it is equally problematic. And we paid kind of full price, and now I think they're selling them new for like $14,000 or $16,000 just to dump them. Yeah, that for all the good we did at COVID time selling cars that were, we bought them and then we were able to sell them for the same price. This one is the opposite.
So do you recommend that somebody goes out and tries to buy a discounted Fisker right now?
No, I wouldn't recommend if anyone buy a Fisker, even if they were solvent. I mean,
that's an interesting view right there. That you were so, I guess, you were so unimpressed by the vehicle that even if Fisker was as solid as Tesla, which we don't really know how solid they are, but we know there's a lot of money there, that you wouldn't recommend it as a car, let alone one that, with over-the-air updates that are going to be shut off at any point, probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's one of the situations where at Consumer Reports, we never recommend buying a first year of any model. So whether it's a Honda Accord, like a redesigned Honda Accord, we say, even though Honda has a really good track record, if you're concerned, wait till the second model year. Because every time they have to redo the assembly line, every time they change the vehicles, parts suppliers are changing things. There's just hiccups. We see the reliability of the first model year of any vehicle drops compared to the last model year of the previous generation. That's when they got all the problems worked out, and then the first year they have a dip. We certainly don't recommend buying the first year of Barnum. We didn't say buy the first year of the Rivian or any of that. We, of course, want the data from people who do. I mean, it's kind of a conundrum. Like, we want the data to validate that you shouldn't do that. We want to see that it is, how they're doing. But, if you're really concerned, we say don't do that. The problem with the Fisker, it seemed like a very rushed product. There were just things that didn't work. I mean, we bought ours, and we got it when they were still viable, so, as far as we all knew. Things like the rear defroster didn't work. I couldn't on a humid, rainy day, but it was cool. The NCAA tournament time, we'd gone to a UConn basketball game. We got in the car. There's four of us. It's rainy, humid. I couldn't defrost the windows. I had to wipe holes to see out because the car could not defog the windows. The different safety systems were inoperative. They would work. They would alert you. They wouldn't alert you. They would change. I mean, it's just, So, I mean, these are factual things that happen and they're documented. I mean, just personally as well. And, take my Consumer Reports hat off. I would just say no, don't do it at all. Unless you're someone who loves to tinker with computers, you think you can get in there. Just no.
Leave it for somebody else. Hey, Jonathan, I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your Sunday morning and joining us. If people want to read more about buying versus leasing or any of the great Consumer Reports stories, they can either go pick up the most recent publication or become an online subscriber, right?
Yes, they can go to consumerreports.org. If you go to car buying, you could see our build and buy car service, which will actually help you find a vehicle at a good price from a network of dealers across the country. And then all of our buying advice, all of our ratings, all of our reliability data, it's all at consumerreports.org.
Perfect. And people want to see you and hear you. Consumer Reports podcasts on YouTube and all normal podcast channels, right?
Yep. So you can listen to our listen to our audio or see us all, including Mike Quincy, on our Talking Cars podcast. So you can get it on YouTube. You can see it on consumerreports.org, and they're free. So you can get our advice there.
All right. Hey, John, thanks for taking time out of your Sunday, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
John, thank you very much. Great talking with you as well.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Why don't we take a quick break, pay some bills? My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. When we come back, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, plus some other news. We'll talk about all of that when we get back. You're listening to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. We'll be right back.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24/7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at aaa.com/join.
Start your Sunday off right with brunch at the Old Hitching Post in Hanson. The Old Hitching Post offers a full buffet brunch every Sunday from 10 to 1. Fill up on all your favorites like eggs and bacon, sausage, home fries, French toast casserole, mac and cheese, homemade hash, fresh seafood, rice, veggies, fresh fruit, quiche, yogurt parfaits, pastries, ham, omelets, eggs Benedict, and more. The Old Hitching Post Sunday brunch from 10 to 1 at 48 Spring Street, Route 58 in Hanson. Online at oldhp.com. That's OLDEHP.com.
It's a grill and chill summer here at WATD. Listen for the sound of the sizzle. When you hear the sizzle, be the correct caller and win prizes from places like My Gym Children's Fitness Center, Mamma Mia's, and Plymouth Cinema. We then turn up the heat, as each prize winner is qualified to win a Weber Indigo SAE 325 grill from Hingham Lumber. Keep listening through the grand prize drawing during the South Shores Morning News on August 2nd. It's a grill and chill summer. Brought to you by Hingham Lumber on your station with the sizzle. 95.9 WATD.
Hi, this is Liz Loans. Tune into Twilight Showcase Radio, hosted by Sandy Stride and Keith James. Visit twilightshowcase.org.
Twilight Showcase, tonight from 8 to 10 on 95.9 WATD. Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. And if you are around tomorrow night, listen to you used to be listening to WATD anyway, but Monday Night Talk with Kevin Tocci, I'll be on, I believe, the second half. So Monday Night Talk with Kevin Tocci, I'll be on talking about stuff. Whatever he asks me about, I'll answer. Try to do the best I can. Car that got me around the last week, one that I really liked and wasn't super expensive, the 2024 Hyundai Tucson. It's a compact SUV. It's available in front wheel or all-wheel drive. The Tucson's available as a conventional gasoline vehicle, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and there's even a performance version. Don't quite get that, but there is one. Our road test was in the SEL version, powered by a 2.5-liter, 187-horsepower four-cylinder engine, connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. It was all-wheel drive. Hyundai's completely redesigned the Tucson in the last year, giving a stronger appearance, helping differentiate itself from other competitors in its class. As an example, the front grille has this kind of diamond pattern, kind of giving it an upscale look. To complement the front of the Tucson, it has LED headlights, and they blend nicely with the overall design. The rear of the body is also pretty stylish. It's a car that I really liked to the point where, my car is 2018 Santa Fe Sport. Size-wise, these two vehicles are very similar, even though the Tucson's considered a compact, and mine at the time was considered sort of a mid-size-ish, not quite, somewhere in between. I don't know. This may be my next car. It had the only thing I really didn't like about it, a little too distracted when you're driving. The infotainment system, like many, can be a little distracting because of the lack of physical buttons. I thought Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis were getting away from that. They haven't been yet, but there's all kinds of driver assistance features, 360-degree camera, advanced airbags, all the stuff that we're getting to see. But the engine delivers kind of a nice balance of power and economy. It's 187 horsepower. It's not a performance car by any means. It gets about 30 miles per gallon, so pretty decent. Interior space is good. Rear seat space is good. Cargo space, my car's supposed to be a little bit bigger. Cargo space inside this is actually more. I don't know how they figured it out. They must fill it with tennis balls and count how many balls are in it. But overall, I would say the latest Hyundai Tucson is a standout in this extremely competitive SUV market with cars like the Honda CR-V and the RAV4. I think it's updated design, premium interior, advanced technology. Makes it an excellent value, and if you're looking for that style car, you should go get it. Hey, with us on the phone is one of my coworkers, Christina Hayman. She is the Senior Manager of Government Affairs for AAA Northeast. And Christina, thank you for joining us. And you were at the State House recently trying to help keep people a little bit safer, right?
Yes, thanks so much for having me, John. I appreciate it.
So what was going on at the State House? I saw pictures. There looked like hundreds of people there.
It was a great event. We hosted an event with the chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Carlos Gonzalez, to talk about a really important bill that would keep kids, primarily toddlers, rear-facing in their car seats until they are at least 2 years old, because as you know, that is really the safest way for our youngest passengers to travel.
And it sounds kind of silly that, you need to have a law, I guess, to do this, but sometimes parents think they're doing the right thing because they're sort of following what they heard. But, I mean, this isn't to try to penalize anyone. This is just to try to make the safety aspect of it so people are more aware of it, right?
That's right. The existing law in Massachusetts that passed in 2008 says that children should remain in a child restraint system from birth until age 8, but there's no specific language or guidance for parents or caregivers on the appropriate type of child restraint system to use at various stages of development. So really the goal of passing this bill is to provide a tool for parents to understand what the appropriate guidance is. And we are really following along with the guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics, our friends at NHTSA, the CDC, all of whom say that children should remain rear-facing truly for as long as possible. And what that means is what the manufacturer's guidelines are on the car seat. So it's just a safer way for kids to travel. So if your child is a small 3-year-old and still fits in that guidance to remain rear-facing, then that's really the way they should be. But at least until 2 is the safest way for these kids to be traveling.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around for a long time, and I remember we used to say at age 1 you could turn them around, and then it even got a little bit kind of confusing there because it's like, well, the baby was born prematurely, so is it really age 1 or is it like 13 months? And it got a little bit confusing. I remember being at a child passenger safety checkpoint, and mom came in and she's like, I'm all excited. I want to turn my baby around so I can see them better. And I'm like, I got to tell you, I'm going to sort of, break your heart here that I'm going to say, no, we want to keep your kid rear facing for as long as possible until they outgrow the seat. And I said that could be 2, or it could even be longer depending on the car seat and the height and weight of the child. So, and once it was sort of explained, it helped a lot. And I think that was similar to the booster seat rules, where people thought, well, as long as my kid's in some kind of restraint, I'm okay. But then once we started to talk about how important it is for seatbelt fit with booster seats, it started again to make more sense.
Absolutely. It really, the studies all show that children in their second year of life, at 12 to 23, 24 months, are just less likely to be seriously injured when they're rear-facing. That rear-facing car seat distributes the force of the crash across the head and neck and spinal column, as opposed to when they're forward-facing, concentrating that force solely on the neck in a forward-facing crash. So it really just protects your child for as long as possible.
Yeah, yeah. When you think about it, it's the harness in forward facing, just like you in a seatbelt. The harness is what's holding you in place, and it's belts and bones work together. And it's no different in a child seat, but it's the shell and the seat itself when it's rear facing that is where all the protection is. And I'm stumbling around right now. The doctor from Falmouth who is so involved.
Greg Parkinson.
Greg Parkinson.
Yes.
I remember talking to him, and we were talking about laws and things, and how sometimes you pass a law to help make people safe. And he went back to putting vitamin D in milk, and I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, before there was a law that said vitamin D had to be put in milk, there was a disease called rickets, and kids got rickets, and they got sick, and they put vitamin D in milk, and that didn't happen anymore. So we passed a law that made people safe. And when we try to pass a law sometimes to make people safer, and again, it's not for giving out tickets. It's not forcing people to buy different car seats. It's all about trying to just keep kids safe.
It really is. It is not about giving out tickets. It's just about sharing the information with the parents and the caregivers so they know what the best practice is, because oftentimes it's just people don't realize. And so if you've got someone, your pediatrician, telling you, your caregiver, maybe if you're at an event and you see a police officer, it's all of those community partners who can share the information. It's not about penalizing parents. It's really just about sharing the information with them so that they will keep their kids as safe as possible for as long as possible.
And sometimes and I hate to say it, but sometimes it is the professional you look up to that may not have the latest information. Your pediatrician might not know the latest rules, or your local, whoever you call for advice. I remember I got a call from she was administrator at one of the towns near me, and she didn't have anyone in her town that did child passenger safety, and she called the neighboring town, and she got somebody who answered the phone, and she said, well, I want to see about putting a car seat in my car. I'm going to have a baby in a month. And the woman said, oh, my advice is, with your, baby car seat, well, put them in the back and take your other kid and put them in the front seat. And I'm like, no. Let's start all over again. And she called me up, and I said, I don't want to embarrass anybody at the police station where they went, but this was advice from 35 or 40 years ago, and that advice just doesn't hold true anymore. And and when I explained to the woman who was going to have the baby and already had a child, I'm like, no, you want to do this, and for this reason and this reason. And she's like, oh, I'm glad I talked to you, and can you show me how to put the car seat in? And we kind of went through all of that, and then I kind of the next day went into the police department and said, I know your folks are all trying to do the right thing, but send somebody to a child passenger safety course, will you? And whoever was at the phone or whoever was at the desk ended up getting me the police chief. Police chief came out. I told him the story, and he's like, I've been kind of putting it off. He said, we're going to, next class that comes up, we're going to get a couple of our people over to the class, so we want to give out the right advice. And the person who gave out the advice wasn't trying to do any harm. They were just giving out the only advice they knew based on, when they had kids 30 years ago or something.
Right. It's just about knowing the latest information and the latest data and all of the studies. And so if you can get everybody on the same page with that, that's really what we're trying to do. And our event we held in the State House on Wednesday last week, that was really our goal, was just to educate. We educated about 75 or 100 staffers for lawmakers about the importance of this, so they could bring that back and share with their folks in their office the importance of the rear-facing car seat bill, really just to educate parents, caregivers, grandparents, all of those people. So when they call the police department, you're absolutely right. The police department has the most updated information that's out there.
Absolutely. And so where is the bill now? What's happening with it? Where do we go from here?
Sure. Well, the bill is through committee, through the joint Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee, which is great. It got a favorable report from that committee. So now we're waiting for it to be voted on by both the House and the Senate. So we have been working tirelessly with advocates and our bill sponsors, Representative Mindy Dahm and Senator Barry Feingold, to try and move the bill and get it heard for a vote in both the House and the Senate. And once that happens, it would move to the governor's desk for her signature. So a few more steps to go, but we're hopeful that we are continuing to raise awareness about the importance of the bill and really get it on the governor's desk.
And you're the political expert, and I know nothing about politics, but is the session ending soon?
It is ending soon, yes. It's the end of July. So we're in a little bit of a time crunch. The Massachusetts legislature, as with many legislatures, waits until the last minute to get a lot of things done. So we expect a flurry of activity within the next few weeks as July comes to a close. So we're hopeful we can get this bill done. I know the legislature has a lot of big items on their list, but we're hopeful we can get this bill done in the next few weeks as they're trying to wrap up formal sessions.
Well, I want to wish you the best of luck, and maybe hopefully some folks who are listening here and they can call their local state reps or whatever and say, hey, look, I heard about this child passenger safety bill. I have kids. I have grandkids. I didn't know I was supposed to keep them rear-facing until at least 2. What can we do to make people more aware of that, and what can we do to get this law passed so everybody knows about it?
That would be great. I would encourage everyone to call their local lawmaker and ask them to support this bill.
There we go. Christina, thanks for taking a little time out of your Sunday morning and joining us here on WATD.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate the time.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Christina Hayman. She is the Senior Manager of Government Affairs for AAA Northeast, one of my coworkers. It's kind of interesting. We don't really know each other very well because she worked for us and then she left and then she came back. And it's great to have her back. And she's at the State House doing her thing. So always good to see. Jesse, you have some spooky event going on. What do you got going on?
We do, yeah. Spooky season is upon us, right? Almost, kind of. I don't know.
Well, apparently my wife was in some department store, and I don't know where, Target or something, and she said the Halloween stuff's out already.
Well, I guess if you think about it, after July 4th, there isn't really another major holiday until Halloween, right? Am I missing something?
Is Halloween a holiday?
I mean, it's not holy. It's kind of the opposite, right? But it's a holiday. I don't know.
I mean, you get I don't know, Labor Day.
Yeah, but there's no Labor Day decorations out there, right? So I guess they jump on it early. I mean, I'm surprised they don't have Christmas stuff out already, right?
I know. So what do you got going on?
We got a couple things. So we have one in Weymouth. I don't have the dates in front of me, but I think it's like right. October 18th, maybe. It'll be at Barrel House Z. And it'll be a live podcast. We have another podcast that's opening up for us, and they'll be doing trivia, and there'll be vendors and stuff. But Barrel House Z is pretty cool. I had never been there. We went there just kind of have a meeting and scope out the place and see if we wanted to do it there. And what a cool brewery. They got a little outdoor area, indoor area, and then they have like the function room. So it should be a lot of fun. So there'll be that.
Where is it?
It's in Weymouth.
Whereabouts?
Kind of off in like an industrial park somewhere, but... that one should be fun. And then we also have later in the month in October, we have a weekend on Block Island. This should be pretty fun. So for that one, we have we'll be investigating 2 spooky locations. The whole island of Block Island is supposed to be haunted, so you can't really miss. But they have a whole thing that's set up. It's basically back-to-back nights, and they do dinner and drinks and all sorts of events. And then Block Island Ghost Tours is doing a ghost tour that's included with the package, so it's a whole weekend. Very, very limited tickets if people are looking for them, but it should be a lot of fun. Halloween stuff,
And if people want more information about that, where do they go to your hometown ghost stories or where?
Yeah, you could. I don't think it's up on our website yet because we're bad at this, but it's all over our social media. So if you just search Hometown Ghost Stories on Facebook, all the information's on the Facebook groups.
Oh, all right.
But it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, because it popped up. It popped up in I don't know my Facebook feed or Instagram or something, and I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
You should come out. Come find some ghosts. Test drive some cars on Block Island.
Is there cars on Block Island?
There are. You can actually, like the ferry system, you can actually drive your car right under the ferry, and you can take your car over. That way you don't have to walk around the island. But
I think I'd rather test drive beer at this brewery in Weymouth. But
we'll be doing plenty of that. Yeah. It should be fun.
Hey, if people want to call in and ask questions or comment about anything, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Why don't we take another break, and when we come back, maybe we'll talk to you about your car problems, whatever's on your mind. We will try to help you with it, and as well as answer some of the weird questions that came in this week. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on 95.9 WATD.
At VIP Tires and Service, doing what we can to support our local community schools is important to us. Our Oil Changes for Education program is here to raise money for local schools, all while giving you great service at a really low price. Here's how it works. Now through July 31st, when you come into the new Brockton VIP at 98 Westgate Drive, you'll get any Valvoline oil change for only $10, and we'll donate 100% of the proceeds to local public schools. A $10 oil change with 100% of the proceeds going to local schools, all at the new VIP Tires and Service, located at 98 Westgate Drive in Brockton. Excludes diesel vehicles. And why stop there with the great deals? Buy any 4 tires at our new Brockton store, have them installed, and we'll take $50 off the price. Any brand, any size. Help us support local schools and get a great deal on tires and the best oil change in town. For all things automotive, turn to VIP.
Start your Sunday off right with brunch at the Old Hitching Post in Hanson. The Old Hitching Post offers a full buffet brunch every Sunday from 10 to 1. Fill up on all your favorites like eggs and bacon, sausage, home fries, French toast casserole, mac and cheese, homemade hash, fresh seafood, rice, veggies, fresh fruit, quiche, yogurt parfaits, pastries, ham, omelets, eggs Benedict, and more. The Old Hitching Post Sunday brunch from 10 to 1 at 48 Spring Street, Route 58 in Hanson. Online at oldhp.com. That's OLDEHP.com.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24/7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at AAA.com/join.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. It's a conversation in between the show that is really interesting. So, Jesse and I talk about a lot of weird stuff. That's all I can say.
We do.
Yep. If you want to join us, we have about 10 minutes left of the program, 781-837-4900. And normally I don't have 2 guests on back-to-back like that, but I thought what Christina was doing to try to keep people safe was worth talking about. And, it's important. I was very involved with child passenger safety. I was not just a technician, but I was also a child passenger safety instructor. So I taught caregivers, cops, firefighters, EMTs, all those kind of people, even valets, some valets at the hospitals, at the kids' hospitals. We ran them through our child passenger safety courses. I was the treasurer for Rhode Island Safe Kids, the organization that sort of did all the child passenger safety stuff. So it's sort of, sort of important. So you want to make sure.
What is the title? Is child what?
Who?
Child something safety?
Child passenger safety.
Pastor?
Passenger.
Okay, you're saying it fast. I thought you said like child pastor safety. Like,
they got
to be safe when preaching.
I guess, yeah. So, no, child passenger safety.
Gotcha.
CPS is what we call it. So, but yeah, so I taught that as part of my job for a while, and it's just people think they're doing the right thing when in fact they're following some old advice or bad advice, and when you get kind of really wrapped into it, you do things like you walk by a car in a parking lot and somebody's putting their kid in there, and you can't help but look in and go, is that car seat put in correctly? Why does that baby looks awful small? Why are they forward facing? The car seat looks like it's bouncing around in there. And I have actually stopped and said, hey, your car seat doesn't look like it's put in right. I do this. Do you want me to check it? And sometimes you just can't help yourself. And probably the weirdest thing I ever did, I was in, I don't know, some department store in Florida, Bell's or I don't know, someplace. And they had a display of kids' car seats, and they had dolls in them or something, and they were everything was wrong. The harnesses were wrong, the kids were in wrong, and I'm over there and I'm kind of fixing it. My wife's like, what the hell are you doing? And I said, oh, these just, it's a display, and, the harness isn't right, and it's too loose, and the chest clip's in the wrong place, and, this little kid shouldn't be in this size seat, and, it's just everything is wrong. And she's like, there's something wrong with you. And, well, I guess there is. So
I do the same thing at bars sometimes. If people are drinking their beer too slow, I'll just go and I'll drink it for them really fast.
They appreciate that, do they?
Yeah, you got to teach them,
Yeah, well, I can understand that, but good luck with it. Somebody wrote to me, and it was kind of a funny, weird email. It was like, in 2019, I bought a 2016 Ford Fusion. To my horror, and I don't know if this is horrible, but to my horror, I discovered the tires were mounted inside out on all four wheels. Well, you can't really mount a tire inside out, but you can mount them backwards if they're directional. Some tires have specific tread that, that they're meant to go in kind of one direction, and they provide better traction that way. Well, the tires were mounted incorrectly. And what was interesting was, I guess they went through multiple state inspections and tire rotation. Nobody noticed. Finally, in 2022, a reputable tire shop pointed out the situation and suggested replacing all four tires. The cost was $600, which seemed reasonable to my husband and me for our family safety. However, a family relative, who was a mechanic for many years, strongly disagreed. He argued we should have had the tires remounted at a smaller shop for much less. My husband and I felt reassured by the new tires since I drove myself and our kids around regularly, but his criticism left us questioning our decision. Was prioritizing safety over cost the right call? Well, I think always prioritizing safety over cost is the right call. Looking at the situation, the tires on your car could have been at least 6 years old, and they may have even been original or nearly original on the car, and they could have been, 8 years old. So even if the tires were replaced before you purchased a car, it's unlikely but possible. And again, the tires were at least 3 years old. If you dismounted these tires, and they were directional tires, and remounted them correctly and balanced them, it's entirely possible that they've already had this sort of weird wear pattern developed in the tires, and you could end up with this kind of noisy ride. You've heard trucks go down the road, you can hear them, you can hear the tire noise before you can hear the truck. Well, that kind of can happen with cars when the tires wear a certain way, like old snow tires did on cars. And then there's a cost. You'd probably spend $150, $160 to have somebody dismount all four tires, check them all out, remount them, rebalance them, maybe either do valve stems or go through the tire pressure monitor system, reprogram them all, put it all back on the car. So, $150, $160 to do that. So that $600 is starting to sound cheaper. So spending, $150, $160 instead of spending $600 and getting brand new tires on the car that are going to stop better, perform better, be better in bad weather, to me makes sense. So I think you did the right thing. Don't pay attention to whoever your family member was. They'll probably tell you wrong things about car seats too. Speaking of tires, somebody said to me, I have a 2013 Audi A4, and they want to know, is places like BJ's, Costco, and Walmart a good place to buy tires? And what brand is a good one? And they've also heard that some of the tires at these wholesale clubs that are even brand names are not the same as the ones you would buy at a tire store. Generally, I believe in buying name brand tires. With the exception of the Volkswagen that we bought tires, long story, you heard it, tires from Turkey. But as an example, Goodyear, Michelin, Kumho, Nokian, they're all good tires. They're popular tires. And one of the reasons to buy a popular brand is if you're on the road somewhere, so you left Marshfield, you decided to go to Maine for the weekend, you blew a tire out in Belfast, Maine. Chances are you're going to find a Goodyear tire in Maine in that area, but you may not find an off-brand tire, and then you're stuck with kind of one tire that doesn't match the rest of them. So it's always good if you have to match a tire, match it with the same exact make and model, sometimes even two tires, depending. So, would Goodyear, as an example, put their name on a poorly performing tire just to sell it at Walmart? I doubt it. So, I mean, if it's got Goodyear's name on it, if it's got Michelin's name on it, years ago, Sears, who had auto centers and stores, would sell a tire made by Michelin, and it was their top-of-the-line tire. And the Michelin people would say that Sears tire isn't as good as the real Michelin's. And the Sears people would say, this tire is better than the real Michelin's because they're made specially for us, and we have to make it better. The reality of it was exactly the same tire. It was just salesmanship trying to sell one thing over the other. So that's all it is. And let's see if we can wrap up here. Somebody said, when did things like car batteries and windshield wipers get so expensive? I just purchased a new battery for my Ford Explorer. It was $260, and windshield wipers for my Ford F-150, they were $80. I can remember $60 batteries and $5 wipers. What's going on? Good quality wiper blades from companies like Trico, Anco, Bosch, and Rain-X. As examples, are expensive, although shopping around can help. One of the reasons is wiper blades that get big. Even my Hyundai has a 24-inch wiper blade on it. That's ridiculous. Back years ago, not ridiculous because it's a big windshield, but back years ago, some of the biggest blades were only 16 inches. So bigger blade, more cost. So there you go. And batteries, all the raw materials have gotten expensive, and they're all made here, and hopefully it's because they're paying people more, so labor costs have gone up. There you go. So that music means we need to go. Tune in to Monday Night Talk with Kevin Kochi. I'll be on, but listen to the whole program. I'll be on the second half. Until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car. And I want to thank our guests, Jon Linkov from Consumer Reports and Christina Hayman from AAA. Until next week, drive safe. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.